Good evening, mi gente. This is Ray Collazo Jr., your host of the Found Translation Bomba Live simulcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We are less than 30 days from Bomba Live 2. And before we introduce a legendary artistic icon in our community, who's another A-list guest and another extremely special guest, I want to remind people that Bomba Live 2 is coming up Saturday, June 12th. It is going to truly be a historic virtual Puerto Rican celebration honoring our talent, character, and perseverance. And these two very special guests are going to be part of that experience and are introducing some other special surprises later on in the show. We dedicate this episode of Bomba Live in the memory of a dear, really a tío of mine, the late Papo Moore, who we're going to talk about later in the show, about his legacy, not only with his family, his wonderful family in Philadelphia, but in the music industry, a notable part of sort of our Nuyorican Latin soul roots, and that speaks to another very special announcement we're going to have later on in the show about Bomba Live 2. But first, let's get to the first legend of the day. This gentleman is someone that if you don't know who he is, I like to tell people. If you don't know too much about the history of Latin music, tribal music, Puerto Rican music, and all that we've accomplished these many decades in so many different genres, you need to bring a notebook to Bomba Live, because we bring the legends to the table to not only discuss and honor their illustrious careers, but they school us not only about what really makes our culture, what really makes our music, some of the misconceptions about the true contribution of the Puerto Rican community in the music canon, and what's the future for some of these tropical rhythms that have really led and dictated really all of Latino mainstream music over the last century. So I want to introduce a very special friend to the family, a true Philly Rican champion, one of our legends. Papo Vazquez is a trombonist, composer, and arranger, Grammy nominee, NEA master artist, 45 years of career spanning jazz, Latin, and Afro-Caribbean music. And he looks like he could be one of my cousins, one of my uncles, Papo Vazquez. Welcome to Bomba Live, brother.
Ray, thank you for inviting me, man, to Bomba Live. It's a pleasure to be here, brother.
You're a legend, and we're going to introduce the legend that introduced me to you as a child many years ago, and throughout the years has been one of your biggest champions, one of your biggest fans, and actually making, I believe, Papo, his first appearance on Bomba Live. Ray Collazo Sr. will be with us in a moment, even though he's had a humongous influence on this program. And of course, you know, people say, wow, where you get that cool radio delivery? I'm like, well,
no, man, I've been
Big Papa.
I grew up listening to your dad. You kidding?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Papo, you know, I knew about you. I know you're a legend, brother, but man, when you read the biography, man, it's unbelievable. So we're going to get into, I know people want to hear about, you know, the whole story, and this conversation cannot do justice to the incredible legacy you've already left still as a young man in this, in the canon of Latin music, from the Fania. This brother was in Fania, to the incredible work you still do to this day with the mighty pirate troubadours. But Papo Vazquez, before we introduce my dad and get into these other conversations, before you became this legend in music across multiple genres and tropical and jazz rhythms, that's not where you started. So Papo Vazquez, where did this journey begin for you?
Well, my journey began, you know, as a young man, watching my siblings and my dad and my uncles and playing live music in the living room. That's where my musical journey began. You know, giving parrandas in Philadelphia, you know, in the snow with 50 people. that's where my musical, you know, foundation. That's you know, and watching those guys, you know, rehearse in the living room. That's the first time that I ever saw live music. Was in my living room with my dad and my uncle and my grandfather. They were all trovadores. They played música jíbara.
And Papo, so, but then you from there, as you share, you spend some time both on the island and then the mainland in Philadelphia and eventually New York. Yeah. What drew you to at such a young age to be so prolific? I mean, you were playing with Fania as a teenager, literally. I mean, this is you're part of that legend in our history as a child, essentially. So what led you to be so prolific so young?
My uncle, he played guitar in a local band, Joe Barreto and La Cubane, and I already I already had snuck into a dance, a church dance, and the band uh, that was playing that day was this was during the early '70s. The band was Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, I want to be like Willie Colon. So like that was the most popular dance music back then. And I had a buddy of mine. His name was Sammy Torres and his brother Philip. They played trombones and they sold me a trombone for $5, and that was the beginning of me playing the trombone. And then of course I was able to take lessons in elementary school, and from there I went to junior high school, which was I started as Potter Thomas. So it was my elementary school.
Damn, my Honey Park people are like, what?
Yeah,
we'll go way back, no doubt.
So then in the junior high school, I was in the band in junior high school, Stetson Junior High School, and then I graduated to I auditioned for Massbaum Technical High School. They had a great musical program back then, So like I was playing music every day in school, So by my second year in high school, I was ready to play with the local band. So so one day my uncle said for me, and it was at 10 o'clock at night, and it must have been a Friday, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Friday or a Saturday. The thing is that my uncle sent somebody to my house to ask my dad permission to let me go play with the band, because one of their horn players didn't show up. So that was the beginning of me playing. I was a kid. I was like, what, 14 years old. So I'm playing.
Sure.
And I think I remember that I think it's Joe Barreto. He asking me if I knew how to read music, and I was like, yeah, but I didn't. I was a kid, But those are the beginnings of my career as a musician back in Philadelphia, and from there, I kept on playing with different local bands until I went from Joe Barreto. Now I remember Gilbert Santiago, and then from there I went to Rafi Hernandez and La Contraria. They were like really like the hot. And I also played with La Paz for a little bit, but my I remember that my the last band that I played with in Philadelphia before I jumped from Philly to New York was with Rafi Hernandez and La Contraria, and we used to alternate with the New York bands, and that's how I got to meet the New York players, like Danny Rosado, Gilbert Colon, Reynaldo Jorge, and those guys were the ones that recommended me with Chocolate Armentero, and then from there I went to play with Larry Harlow, which was actually the first time that I ever. And I'm talking to you, so I started playing as a young little baby Papo in Philadelphia local bands. 73, 74, by 75, I was already playing in New York, and that's something. But I credit that to the good education that I was getting, the good foundation that I was getting in school,
That's incredible.
And I always credit music for saving my life and keeping me out of trouble, even though my dad was extremely strict. My dad and my uncles and my grandfather, they were all bodega owners. So I was the kid that used to fill the refrigerator with sodas and milk and the whole thing, or like, hey, there's no Pepsi. Go to the basement, bring it back.
It's a lesson for our Dominicanos back in the days. Puerto Ricans were bodegueros también.
The thing is that I was like, I don't know if I like this bodega thing.
What I want to do, Papo, is I want to play a clip from your website and encourage people. Papo has, amongst many gifts, has a brand new, a fairly new album. He came out during the pandemic. I mean, Papo Vazquez, Chapter 10, Breaking Cover. We're going to talk more about that album, which, it talk about crossing so many different genres of music. But I found this clip, and I encourage people to buy that album. Go directly to papovazquez.com to buy his newest album, Chapter 10, Breaking Cover. We found this really clip that helps sum up some of that history. Then we're going to bring on the truest story and the true Papo Vazquez, the person that's tracked your entire career since childhood, literally, the legendary himself, Ray Collazo Sr. So let's watch this clip, Papo, and then we'll introduce Ray.
I stood there until I went back to Puerto Rico in 1980 for 5 years. So, but I've always, been back and forth.
He's the product of a bicultural upbringing and a multi-generational musical influence.
I started playing the trombone in Philadelphia when I was around 13. That's when I started to play. Well, I come from a very musical family. My grandfather, my uncle, my father, they were all troubadours, what they call trovadores in Puerto Rico. Troubadours, music from the mountains.
Trombonist Papo Vazquez has made a lasting contribution to a genre of music called Afro-Latin jazz.
The music from the mountains of Puerto Rico is called Jibaro music. So there's like there's different, like I guess like three or four different schools of music in Puerto Rico, or more. There's probably more, but it's like La Bomba, which is the music of our African descent that we play mostly in the coast of Puerto Rico. Then there's La Plena, which is a derivative from the bomba. Then there's La Danza, which is a derivative from the contradanza that came from France. And then there's the Jibaro music, which is the mountain music.
Like the tough streets of Philadelphia, where he grew up, his music has soul and grit.
Well, the music that we play there's a lot of elements to it, you know, the jazz element, the Afro-Puerto Rican element, you know. So when you throw all those things together, it could give it you know, it depends on the composition, you know.
And we're talking to just a little snippet from a great interview from a few years back with the great Papo Vazquez. Ray Collazo Sr. will be with us in a second. His mic is needs to get turned on. So, Pop, you could just come in and out of the system. You'll be back, and we'll get some other clips from Papo. But I wanted to ask you, Papo, because there is a turning point in your career. You're in the 70s as a child, really, working with, I mean, you're in Fania. I mean, literally, Larry Harlow. We went through some of the names. Hector Lavoe, you played with all the salsa legends of the time. Then at some point, you made a decision. I mean, let's be honest about it, Papo. You could have been playing with salsa bands the rest of your life. You made a decision that you wanted to do something substantive and want to kind of push the envelope with our musical tradition. So you made a turn and turned to a Latin jazz direction and sort of creating your own musical path. So tell us about that journey going into the 80s and 90s, not just as a salsa musician, but as a jazz, Latin jazz, Afro-Caribbean composer.
Well, you know what? Before we answer that question, let me take this opportunity to clear something up about that video. That was at the Kennedy Center, right? But check this out. Every time I see that video, I say, "Damn, I forgot my clothes that day."
You look fine.
I don't know if I might look fine to you, but I was like, every time I see that thing, like I said, damn. we rushed out of our apartment, and when I got to Washington D.C. from New York, I said, "Where's my clothes?" it was in New York. But anyway, listen, to answer your question, you know, from a young man, I was extremely influenced by our culture, you know, by our Puerto Rican folklore and stuff, you know. So you know, there's Ray. Yo, Ray, welcome.
Yeah, Pop. Say hi, Dad. Make sure your mic's working. I think it is, though. Say hi. Hello, Dad. That's a good spot for you.
I understand what you guys are saying.
Okay.
But
we hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear? Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We hear you fine.
Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
In and out. I couldn't understand much of anything, but I just want to share my first memories of Papa was as a young man living in Fair Hill, which is a neighborhood in Philadelphia, and him walking around with his trombone. You know, I always noticed him from day one because he was a young man, proud of his instrument, you know, in the neighborhood, being an example to the others. He was a good guy. Papo, let me ask you, were you part of Kip Morris's group at Edison?
Kip Morris. Now, check this out. the thing with me and Kip Morris,
the music teacher at Edison.
The thing with me and Kip Morris and Edison High School, we lost him.
He'll come back. It's okay.
Okay. So should I answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. The thing with me and Kip Morris, he's talking about Edison High School. The neighbor, I used to live in 8th and Indiana. So that was like, let me see, like what was it, 3 blocks away or 3 or 4 blocks away from Edison High School, which was on 8th and Lehigh. The original one, because now they got a new one. It's further up north, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Anyway, the thing is that I was supposed to go to Edison High School. I wonder if he's hearing us. I was supposed to go to Edison High School, and I auditioned, and I auditioned for Mass Bomb, and I auditioned, and they accepted me in Mass Bomb. But Kip, I got to meet Kip because he used to play with Panama. I think he was in Panama's orchestra, and we used to alternate, and we became friends, and he knew that I was still in high school. So what he would do is he would give me a permit, like a slip, so I could go from Mass Bomb and practice with his band in Edison High School.
Wow.
But I never went to Edison High School, but I did play with that band.
Oh,
and that's
okay.
where I got to meet Jamaluddin Takuma. He had another name back then, which I will not mention, but Jamaluddin, marvelous bass player. He's a world class. Matter of fact, Jamaluddin Takuma, Robert Morales, percussion player. I remember they used to have rumbas in front of Edison High School in the schoolyard. And I used to do my bone and jam with the guys. Yeah.
So we'll bring back Papa in a second, but what I wanted to ask you, Papa, was that. So talk about the transition, because you were part of the golden era of salsa. Then you went into another direction.
Right. See, you gotta understand that I was also a founding member of an original member of the Fort Apache, Jerry Gonzalez Fort Apache band. So Fort Apache band is a band created by Jerry Gonzalez, who was Andy Gonzalez's brother. Who Andy and Manuel Kendall were the leaders of Libre. I was also so my progression went from Chocolate, Larry Harlow, Hector Lavoe, and then I went to then I became a member of Conjunto Libre, which was Conjunto Libre, and to me that was a big thing. I wanted to be part of that band because I was able to play next to Jose Rodriguez, and Jose Rodriguez and Barry Rogers were the trombone players with the Eddie Palmieri and La Perfecta, So I became a member of that group. So when I became a member of that group, then I became good friends with Jerry and Andy Gonzalez, and Jerry spearheaded the Fort Apache band. He was the leader. He created that group, and I became a member of that group. But that group was we were a rebellious kind of a bunch of players. We were refugees of salsa, just like there's another one of the master musicians, Mario Rivera. I was also a founding member of that band. His name was Mario Rivera. His group was called the Salsa Refugees. Follow, and his thing was merengue jazz. And Libre, which was actually also a pretty rebellious kind of style of band. It wasn't like the typical salsa group because Libre would play jazz tunes and this and that. So I first of all, I was already introduced to jazz from Philadelphia, by a gentleman by the name of Jimmy Purvis, who actually met when I played in my first group with Joe Barreto. And he gifted me my first jazz records. So from a young early age, a young man, I was already influenced. And I'm like, my first jazz records that he gifted to me was J.J. Johnson, Blue Trombone, and John Coltrane, live at the Village Vanguard. So before that, I'm used to seeing the popular dance groups like Gran Combo, Willie Colon, Joe Feliciano, the whole Final All-Star thing. But when I got introduced to jazz, then something in me was like, wait a minute. I'm like, okay, I'm the trombone behind the singer, but I don't know if I really want to be that. I want to be something else. So all of a sudden now I become a member of the Fort Apache band, and we record I recorded with Jerry his first 3 records. So by 1980, I already had recorded with the Funny All Stars. I did the Havana Jam, and I was also I'm extremely grateful and extremely lucky that I got invited by Sly Hampton to record in a record titled Sly Hampton with the World of Trombones. So it's 8 trombones plus it was 9. And when I'm sitting next to Steve Turay, which was actually the person who recommended me for that, and the guy next to me was Curtis Fuller. So now I'm sitting to like 2 of my heroes, So now I'm like, now there's a whole bunch of stuff percolating in me, So by 1982, I actually got invited to go to Puerto Rico to play a gig with Batacumbele. And Batacumbele, which was actually another experiment. I was always gravitating into experimental stuff, or how can you explain cutting edge bands, groups that were at the tip of the spear, like Batacumbele, Fort Apache band. There was no bands like Fort Apache when that band, when that band existed or came out. There was no groups like that. There was Fort Apache. I mean, of course, before that, there was, of course, Tito Puente, Mongo Santa Maria, Cal Jada, but that was like a whole different generation. We were like the new generation, like I would say like the second wave of what you consider Latin jazz in New York or the United States,
But let's take it to another level because
to answer your question,
yes,
see now you understand. Now you're understanding what's going on in my mind.
Evolution.
So now I go to Puerto Rico, and actually I went to Puerto Rico to do a gig with Batacumbele. They had just recorded the first record, which hadn't come out yet. As it turned out, they didn't send me a 2-way ticket. They sent me a 1-way ticket to Puerto Rico, right? But life brings all kinds of different surprises and stuff. The first day that I arrived in Puerto Rico, when I first saw this lady who's been my wife now for 35 years, Elena Figueroa, who's actually Eric Figueroa's sister. When I saw her, I fell in love with her. So now it's like everything is like, everything is different. Long story short, now I go back to Puerto Rico. Now I stay in Puerto Rico. I become part of the Batacumbele, and then when that disbanded, the original group, I became a member of Boy Valentin's band. But in those 5 years that I spent in Puerto Rico, we were playing in the different plazas, the different in Puerto Rico that every town has a plaza where every Sunday or every Saturday where they have the fiestas patronales, right? And I got to see a lot of the folkloric groups like los Cepeda, la familia Cepeda, los Ayala. Now I'm going like, wait a minute. So now like, don't forget, I'm coming out of experimenting with Fort Libre, Fort Apache, now Batacumbele. I'm naturally already, I'm like a rebellious. I got that rebellious spirit in me. There's something, So by the time Batacumbele disbands, we were playing. It was mostly a mix of Afro-Cuban, but we had also Puerto Rican stuff in there. La música jíbara and stuff. But I like. It dawned on me. I was like, there's something missing. And it dawned on me that I said, you know what? I'm going to make a band, and I'm going to call it Bomba Jazz. That's the birth, and that's the answer to your question.
So let me see if we can squeeze in a comment from Dad. I'm sorry, Papo.
So in 1984, it was my first concert in Puerto Rico in the old San Juan with my original band, and the name of that band was called Papo Vazquez Bomba Jazz. There you
go. Beautiful. That's where I wanted to get to. Dad, can you hear us? Ray Collazo Sr., can you hear us, Dad?
Ray,
can you hear us?
I can now, yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Talk to us about. Yes, we hear you fine. Talk to us about.
Yo,
Now,
can you
Papo's-
hear me?
Yes, we can hear
I can
you.
hear you.
We can hear you. Trust me. Trust me, we can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hey.
Well, I have a bunch of questions I want to ask Papo anyway.
Well, let's start with the Bomba Jazz era.
Yes.
We went through the 70s already.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, you know, Papo has so much history. I mean, everything that he's been involved with is totally unique. Conjunto Libre, Batacumbele. I mean, Batacumbele to me was just unbelievable. And rest in peace, Cachete, a musician. Did Batacumbele come about because of Irakere? Did that have anything to do with it, Papo?
No. Check this out. Yeah.
It didn't.
Batacumbele.
Okay.
Batacumbele.
I don't know. For some reason, I thought maybe you guys were a little influenced by doing what they did, but Puerto Rican style.
Not as far as I know. Not as far
You
as I
know, because you had their style, but Bomba Plena as opposed to Afro-Cuban.
Well, it was mostly
That's great.
Afro-Cuban.
But everything you've ever done is just right.
Now,
other than being Afro-Cuban.
No, but check this out, Ray. Batacumbele, that group started. I was also a member of Luis Perico Ortiz's first band, the first band that he had. And I wasn't there too long because I was involved playing with Jerry Gonzalez and Libre and all this stuff, and those are actually my favorite bands because they allowed me a lot of space to improvise, you know. But in that band with Perico
the
Ortiz,
Gonzalez brothers were totally right.
Anyway, but in Maestro Luis Perico Ortiz's band,
the Gonzalez brothers a lot.
Yeah, me too. Those are family. But to answer your question about Batacumbele, that group was actually started and it came out of Luis Perico Ortiz, Maestro Luis Perico Ortiz's group. And in that band was Cachete Maldonado, Eric Figueroa, and Eddie Wawa. They were the ones that created Batacumbele, and they had the idea that they wanted to go to Puerto Rico. So while I was part of that band, they wanted me to be part of they wanted me to go to Puerto Rico with them, right? And I remember we rehearsing in Eric's house, but I didn't want to go to Puerto Rico. I said I ain't going to go to Puerto Rico. So the next thing I know, also in Cachete, Eddie Wawa, and Eric Figueroa, they left. They left Luis Perico's band to form their own band. That's how Batacumbele started. I don't think it was influenced by Irakere. It was probably influenced by La Riba Oriental, but there was a lot of, Cachete, he's a rumbero and stuff like that.
So Papo, so let's get. I want to with the Bomba Jazz piece that you really birthed in many ways. I know that honoring the making sure that people understand the tradition of Afro Puerto Rican music and jazz, Latin jazz, tropical music is so important because oftentimes, rightfully so, the Afro-Cuban tradition gets a lot of props. But was Bomba Jazz your attempt and your style to make sure that the Afro Puerto Rican tradition was honored within the larger Latin jazz and jazz movement?
Well, my mission was to create like a new page or a new room with new music, modern music, utilizing our folklore, because it's not just bomba and plena or música jíbara. It's our music. It's utilizing, like I always say, we the mighty Paris troubadours. Our orbit is around our Puerto Rican folklore, right? But matter of fact, I'm gonna explain to you why I decided many years ago. I think in 1994, I already had decided that because my first concert with that name was in 1984. But 10 years later, people started calling me Mr. Bomba Jazz, and I felt that was like kind of like hindering my I wanted to be free to play whatever I wanted to play. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, to this day, we are still the Bomba Jazzers, but we're free to play whatever we want. That's why I think in 1996, or I'm not sure. Right now, the date escapes me, but the things that I was playing with Ruben Blaze Band, and we were in Chicago. I think it was Chicago, and I mentioned it to the bass player Mike Viñas that I didn't want to use that name no more, Bomba Jazz, because it was pigeonholing me. You know, it was like I felt like restricted. You know, so he said to me, joking around, well, you don't understand that what you are is a pirate troubadour. And I went like, what? A pirate troubadour? I found that so freaking cool. I said, you know what? I'm going to call my band Pirates Troubadours, right? And of course now, you know, so like 25 years later, we've evolved it into the Mighty Pirates Troubadours. But it's like that's how it evolved from the Bomba Jazz to the Pirates Troubadours. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
And it actually liberated me to play whatever we want.
What I want to do is, speaking of playing what you want, what I want to do is play another clip from your website, and I encourage people to go to papovazquez.com, buy his newest album, Chapter 10 Breaking Cover, and we have a very special announcement related to this wonderful CD as it relates to Bomba Live 2 in a moment, and Papo's contribution to Bomba Live 2, which is going to be very special. And we're going to hear back from my dad, Ray Collazo Sr. He'll chime in a second about not only Papo's legacy, but also another Latin legend that's going to be joining us at Bomba Live 2. So let's hear a little music that kind of just gives you a tiny sample of the incredible legacy of Papo Vazquez as a composer, as a musician, as a band leader, as a producer, of someone that really has really kept our culture alive in new and inventive ways in the world of jazz and tropical music. So let's hear a little bit from Papo, and we'll be right back. That's just again just a flavor of the incredible artistry that is Papo Vazquez, not only as a musician, a composer, band leader. And Papo, let's talk for a second about this new album, Chapter 10 Breaking Cover. Tell us about your latest album, which again combines all the rhythms that you're so known for.
Well, on this record, we let me mention the guys in the band. On this record, of course, me on the trombone, arrangements and compositions, and on the tenor saxophone is Ivan Renta, the great Ivan Renta, the marvelous Rick Germanson on piano, Ariel Robles on the bass, Maestro Alvesta Garnett on the drums, Maestro Carlos Maldonado on the percussion, and Reynaldo de Jesus on the percussion. These are great. I'm extremely blessed and very grateful to have these marvelous musicians, support my efforts. And as an invited guest, I have Jose Mangual Jr. on 3 tracks on vocals and on percussion on 1 track. and my buddy Sherman Irby, who's also co-producer on alto saxophone on 3 tracks, and my brother Desron Douglas on bass on the 9th track, on the track 9, and my cousin Antonio Caraballo on track 6 on guitar, and Antoine Dry on trumpet. Those are the guys, and and this is a mix of with what you got to understand. Every time you listen to one of my records, or especially like this record here, this is a evolution. This thing started back in 1984, so it's like this is like 30 or 40 years of trial and error and experimentation, and so you're listening to it's something that's taken us a very long time to create. It's taken me, and of course, without the help of all the other gentlemen along the way, many musicians. I've had great, all the greats that played in my band.
Papo, what I love about this CD, and I encourage everyone to go to papovazquez.com and purchase his new CD, Chapter 10. Is not only do you have multiple, from jazz mambo, plena jazz, un aguinaldo, but the titles of the songs really speak to your life journey. Fairmount Park, Fiesta La Sanse, Saludo Campesino, New York Latin Jazz Mambo, Broke Blues. So really honoring your incredibly well-rounded musical legacy. Dad, if you can hear us, just a final word in terms of, before a couple of special announcements about June 12th, just help us sum up Papo Vazquez's incredible
legacy. I can. Well, I wanted to mention that. Well, one of the things I wanted to mention as a Philadelphian, he does a piece on Fairmount Park in his new album that is fantastic. It has all the spirit of Fairmount Park. We love Fairmount Park. So, I love that song. Thank you for always remembering your hometown.
Always remembering our roots.
I really respect it.
And you know what, Ray?
I'll tell you something. Grupo Folklórico to me was one of the greatest things. I was such an important part of that. Thank you for that as well.
Oh no, well, I didn't have too much to do with that.
Point in my life where I can't sit around and just listen to salsa music. It's got to be special, and you're in that special category.
No question about it. So, Papo, and I want to thank my dad again, the original Ray Collazo, for bringing Papo Vazquez into my life as a kid.
Yeah, I hear you. You're the man, brother. And we're very proud of you, man.
Yes, we are. Yeah, I'm going to put you in the queue, Dad, because I just have to make a quick announcement that we'll talk. You'll come back for another announcement. But Papo, I want to thank you not only for always repping Philly hard and being a great member of our family, because you've always been so gracious to my father as a mentor and a friend. And I remember many years ago when I was at Columbia University to bring you to campus, you were so generous to us, and you gave us a good deal on the gig. We didn't have that much money, but you brought one less guy, and we had a great time with your quartet, and you played a fantastic set for us. But I just want to thank you because not only for everything you've done, this new incredible album, which we're going to support 100%, but you have you've really thrown your support to Bomba Live 2, the virtual Puerto Rican celebration on June 12th, which is not only going to be a 8-hour virtual celebration of the talent, character, and perseverance of the Puerto Rican community, but it's going to raise awareness around the need for us to eradicate domestic violence from the Puerto Rican culture, not only in Puerto Rico, but in Puerto Rican communities throughout the United States. And so we're going to be raising funds for that issue with organizations in Philadelphia and Puerto Rico. So, for you as a giant in the music industry to join us, it means so much to us. And I want to announce that Papo Vazquez has graciously is going to allow us for Chapter 10 Breaking Cover to be the soundtrack for Bomba Live 2. So the music you're going to hear through the background music will be this fantastic album, this opus, your latest opus, Papo. So we want to thank you for, and you'll be making an appearance. We'll work out those details. You'll also be making an appearance during Bomba Live 2. So we just want to thank you for your generous spirit, contributing to the cause. What does an event like this, a moment in our history, Papo, mean to you, to be on a virtual stage with hip hop artists, with salsa artists, with reggaetoneros, with freestyle legends, other musical icons, which we'll be announcing in the coming days. What does this moment in our history as a Puerto Rican artist and Puerto Rican leader mean to you?
You know, what makes us real strong as a community is to support our arts, man. We have to as a people, you know, support our community of artists. And aside from that, of course, you could support art all through, throughout the spectrum. But it's real important for us to support our Puerto Rican artists and their efforts.
And part of the reason, one of the reasons I'm doing, last year we started Bomba Live because, with the pandemic, the festivals got, all the Festa Patronales got canceled, the New York Parade got canceled, everything. Exactly. And so we felt the need to do this. And you obviously have been a big member as the band leader, the orchestra leader for the parade over the years. I mean, you're a central part of that as well. And so, we just felt compelled to do something, and it became much more because I think one of the things that is so important to the spirit of Bomba Live and now Bomba Live 2 is that, other groups, and I think, and again, it's actually to highlight a positive, but, Celia Cruz, spent the latter half of her life really being, make the Cuban American leaders in Florida and Miami really made sure she was taken care of and honored. And that's a wonderful thing. But oftentimes a lot of our leaders, did similar icons get celebrated that way? Did Cheo Feliciano really get the credit he deserved, or some of those other icons? So we're not. Yeah.
A lot of our artists they just fall through the cracks, man.
That's right. That's right.
And right now, man, this the only thing that comes to my mind is, en la unión está la fuerza.
Exacto.
In unity, that's what makes us. And not just the Puerto Ricans or the Latinos here in the United States, from wherever we come from, in the island of Puerto Rico or Cuba or whatever,
that's right.
Or the Dominican Republic, that we all see. That was the beauty of this music. When I first came to New York, man, I never forget, man. Back in the 70s, there wasn't no this division, Puerto Rican here. It was all a one community, But since we're doing Bomba Live and we're doing our Puerto Rican thing, remember, to all our friends and family members, listen, en la unión está la fuerza. We want more resources from the government or more support. That's how we're gonna get it. You follow?
That's right.
And I'm extremely grateful for the invitation, Ray. There's Papa Ray there. And,
the legend, the other legend.
I've been listening to Ray since I was a little kid. That's one of my heroes there, brother.
Yeah, tell me about it. He would play on the radio on Saturday, and I'd hear it 5 days a week because he always taught me you only get better if you listen to yourself.
Hey, Ray,
and so I do that to my kids. They hear my podcast day and night.
Check this out. Ray Senior. Check this out.
Please.
I found a video. You're gonna get a kick out of this. I found a video of the original of the first generation Fort Apache band at Grendel's Lair in Philadelphia. I think I hope I'm getting the name correct. But it was a live performance of Jay Gonzalez, Fort Apache band, with McCoy Tyner as an invited guest, and you were in the audience. You probably didn't remember that.
That's fantastic.
I was like, oh man, that's Ray Collazo. You were in the audience, Ray Collazo Sr. You remember that gig?
Yeah, he's got a little delay, unfortunately. But Papo, I want to let you know that you've can you hear us, Dad?
Uh-oh.
He'll pop up.
No, I heard my name. Yes. That's about it.
Okay, well, he was saying it.
But thank you.
We don't have time to repeat it, but basically,
I appreciate it.
Yeah. You were at there's some concert footage, and he saw you in the crowd. So you were always everywhere.
And I was there. I was there. I found the video.
Yeah, I do.
Do you remember that? The Fort Apache?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Thank you for that.
You was there.
Yes, I do.
But I want to mention that
You're the man, Papa. We're proud of you, man.
You know it. I want to mention that Papo
Oh,
Vasquez is going to be
man, you
has
can't
donated.
you don't get any better than that, man.
No doubt about
You
it.
don't.
Has donated
Yeah, no
several of
doubt.
his.
That's,
See,
you know,
give me a
that's,
second. Man. Give me a second, Pop. Donated several CDs, and we're actually going to be giving them away. We're going to do a salsa trivia game, Papo, during Bomba Live 2. You got to look her up. Funky Bacalao is a Puerto Rican Instagram star who is a big-time salsera comedian. She's going to star in the novela we're producing, The Death of Cocotazo, which is she's actually doing her practicing on another virtual stage right now.
Wait. The Death of Cocotazo?
Yes, we're doing a novella. There's a novella. Some of this music may be on that thing, but hey, we haven't negotiated that yet.
No, my music will be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
jazz.
Seguro que sí. So the Death of Cocotazo, you know, so I'm going to give y'all a little spoiler. Cocotazo dies, so now Correa and Chancleta are fighting to see who's going to take over the family. So it's going to be incredible. So Funky Bacalao Matos is a big time salsera, so she's going to do a salsa trivia game, and we're going to be giving out for the winners your CD. We really thank you so much, Papo. I want to get Dad on here because we have one more announcement before we wrap up the show. Dad, can you hear us? Dad, can you hear us?
yes,
Dad, can you hear us?
slightly.
Okay.
It's like a mumble the whole time.
Okay. Well, so
I
I'll
can
say
pick
it.
up words. That's about it.
I got you. Okay. So I wanted to announce, Papo, you're not the only legend. We're so fortunate to have many legends and many in many fields that are going to be joining us. But Ray Collazo Sr. has helped us secure not only your participation, but another legend, the king of Latin soul, Joe Bataan, another one of our Latin legends, is going to be joining us on Saturday, June 12th. Tell us, Dad, about Joe Bataan. He's got a tough signal. So we're gonna keep it moving here, but unfortunately we'll get that on a better signal soon. But Joe Bataan, well, Papo, you tell people you know his legacy. I'm sure you've collaborated over the years. Tell people about Joe Bataan.
Oh, Joe Bataan, man, you know, he was one of our big boogaloo stars, man. You know, so Latin soul stars, man. I think he was at the top cat, man.
Absolutely. We're gonna have so there's gonna be a Bomba Live 2. And again, Papo, we're still working out your schedule, but you're welcome to be part of all as much as you want of it. But we will have a exclusive meet and greet, virtual meet and greet. So that's why we're gonna have a virtual. Again, this is a fundraiser for domestic violence organization. So not only is there some of the content going to be available live on social media, but we're going to have a virtual conference. And we're going to have a track for Latin music. So we're going to have salsa, jazz, legendary artists from all of our genres having intimate panel conversations with their fans. So Joe Bataan has agreed to be a part of that. And again, Papo's going to make an appearance of many other stars and celebrities on June 12th, Saturday, June 12th. So look out for Joe Bataan. And again, Papo, just anything else you want to share before I say some final words about another friend that we want to acknowledge on the show. This episode is dedicated to the great Papo Moore, who left us recently, too soon. Papo Vazquez, is anything else about your music or anything else you want to share with the fans that love you on Bomba Live?
Support our Afro Puerto Rican jazz at papovazquez.com. And thank you so much for your invitation, Ray. And I'll see you on the 12th.
Oh, yes. That? Absolutely, brother. You're such an amazing person. Just want to thank Papo Vazquez. And before we wrap this up, I just want to acknowledge, and again, my dad's having some technical difficulties. A great friend of my father, someone that grew up like an uncle to me. The great Papo Moore passed away. For people that know Philadelphia, the Latino community, lived off Fifth and the Boulevard for decades, raised in a wonderful family with his wife and his wonderful children. He'll be laid to rest tomorrow in Philadelphia. And Papo was, amongst other things, a great patron of Latin music. He actually grew up with Joe Bataan in Spanish Harlem. So for those salseros and old school Latin music aficionados, they're very aware of Papo Moore. He was a great fan of my father's, would help my dad carry crates at DJ gigs, and was just a wonderful uncle to me and my brothers. He took us to Phillies games, wrestling. It was just a wonderful member of our extended family. I'm going to see if I can get my dad on just real quick to share a thought about Papo Moore. Dad, can you hear me? It's a shame we're having these technical difficulties today. Dad, can you hear me?
Am I on?
Yes, Dad. Papo Moore. Can you talk for a moment on Papo Moore?
Okay, listen. What I want to say about Papo Moore, and he born and raised, and he moved to 60, and he was just a great guy. He grew up with Joe Bataan, and I'm a member of a group that's called Friends, Childhood Friends of Spanish Harlem. And when I put up Papo's name, I got so many people that were just in sorrow of hearing him pass away. He was a great guy, and I'm always gonna miss him. He's an inspiration, a great storyteller. He had the greatest stories to tell. He used to say that he saw Joe Bataan taking a picture of when he posed for Subway Joe. And he said he walked by while Joe was doing that. And he has just so many great stories. He was a wonderful guy and a great father. He had maybe, 8, 9 kids? And they're all doing well.
All very successful. All doing well.
And, he left all of them. His oldest son was going to be on here with us, but he's a nurse. And nurses can't get off. They work 2 and 3 shifts,
Yeah, that's right.
Thank God for nurses.
That's right. That's right. No, Papo was a wonderful man.
He was a wonderful guy.
He loved the music. I know he loved Papo Vazquez's
services.
music. Yeah, no, he was a wonderful man. And, it's so appropriate that we're here today with a Papo, who's a musical icon, who he was a big fan of, and talking about Joe Bataan, a childhood friend of Papo's.
Oh,
we
no
just
doubt.
want to send love and respect to the Moore family, all his wonderful children, his wife, the rest of the extended family, the Logan Hunting Park community that love Papo so much in the neighborhood. And so we're going to wrap up the show with a bomba in the honor of both Papos. Papo Vazquez, I don't know if you know this young woman. Actually, I'm going to bring up Papo to wrap up the show. So, Papo, this one's for you. So this young woman is Maria Isa, is a Minnesota Puerto Rican, a Sota Rican, who is a singer, rapper, actress, and bombero. She does original bombas, and so she was personal friends with George Floyd, and so when we did the show last year, was focused on racial justice issues. She came on and performed this bomba that she wrote and performed in la memoria de George Floyd. So for you, Papo, someone that has elevated la música bomba to an international level through your music. And Ray Collazo, who taught me everything I know about all this stuff.
By the way, today is the anniversary of the murder. Today's the 1-year anniversary.
And very appropriate, Dad. Thank you. And Papo, Maria Isa did the song because she was personal friends with George Floyd, because he was the bouncer at all the 2 Latin clubs in Minnesota. Wow. So he used to carry crates, equipment, ella chiquita, make sure she was safe in the parking lot at the end of the gig. So we're gonna wrap up the show.
Right. With the police officer, they knew each other.
Yeah, that was a whole other shaky part of the story. We'll probably never know the full answer to that, unfortunately. But for Papo Moore, for Joe Bataan, it'll be with us June 12th. For Papo Vazquez, all of the people that are part of this incredible musical legacy that Philly Boricuas are a part of, that are soulful. I want to thank you all for watching the show. Enjoy this. We'll go out with Maria Isa by Chapter 10 Breaking Cover. And we will see Papo Vazquez on June 12th, Bomba Live 2.
Love you, Papo.
Si no pone la gente se va a quemar. Fuego, fuego, Minnesota. Fuego, fuego, Minneapolis. Fuego, fuego para Jorge. Fuego, fuego para los nombres que han matado la policía. Que se largan ya, que yo no quiero sufrir. Mi gente negra no quieren más, no quieren no sufrir. Que todos tenemos que vivir con unidad. Y no van a sufrir. Ay, cómo duele, 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 como